The airport buzzed like a giant beehive. Families lugged colorful suitcases, business travelers hurried with laptops, and couples held hands, their eyes sparkling with vacation dreams. The air crackled with the thrill of journeys about to begin. Amidst the chaos, Sarah, a bright-eyed 16-year-old, sat patiently in her wheelchair. Her smile was as wide as the runway. Today was the day. After years of saving and planning, her family was finally taking that trip to Disney World she had always dreamed of. Her parents, John and Mary, bustled around her, double-checking tickets and making sure her favorite stuffed animal, a fluffy penguin named Percy, was safely tucked in her backpack. Her younger brother, 8-year-old Tom, bounced with unrestrained energy, already imagining himself on roller coasters and meeting Mickey Mouse. "Are you excited, sweetie?" Mary asked, kneeling beside Sarah and smoothing her hair. "More than anything," Sarah replied, her voice filled with pure joy. This wasn't just a vacation, it was a symbol of their family's resilience and a chance to create memories that would last a lifetime. They had overcome so many obstacles to get here, and nothing was going to dampen their spirits. The vacation was finally here. Now boarding, families with small children and passengers requiring assistance, the announcement chimed. John carefully guided Sarah's wheelchair toward the gate. Tom skipped ahead, eager to be the first one on the plane. The narrow aisle of the aircraft presented an immediate challenge. Passengers squeezed past, some offering smiles, others absorbed in their phones, oblivious to the obstacles Sarah's wheelchair presented. John expertly maneuvered, but it was slow going. A flight attendant, a tall woman with a severe bun and a name tag that read Brenda, approached them. Her smile seemed strained. "We need to keep the aisle clear," she said, her voice clipped. "Can we hurry this along?" John, flustered, apologized. "We're doing our best," he explained, carefully avoiding bumping into a passenger's bag. Brenda tapped her foot impatiently. "There are other people waiting to board," she said, her eyes scanning the line of passengers behind them. Her tone suggested Sarah and her family were an inconvenience, a problem to be solved quickly. Sarah felt a knot of anxiety tighten in her stomach. The dream vacation suddenly felt a little less dreamy. Reaching their assigned seats, another problem arose. The space designated for wheelchair storage seemed smaller than expected. John struggled to collapse Sarah's wheelchair, but it wouldn't quite fit. Brenda reappeared, her expression hardening. "Sir, that wheelchair needs to be stowed properly." "It's a safety hazard," she said, her voice rising slightly. "I'm trying," John said, frustration creeping into his voice. "It's just a bit tight." "Well, you need to try harder," Brenda snapped. "We can't have it blocking the aisle during takeoff." Mary stepped in, attempting to defuse the situation. "Perhaps there's another storage area we could use," she suggested politely. Brenda rolled her eyes. "There isn't. This is the only space available. Maybe you should have considered this before booking the flight." Her words stung. Sarah felt tears welling up in her eyes. What was supposed to be a magical trip was turning into a nightmare, all because of Brenda's coldness and lack of understanding. Tom, sensing the tension, gripped his mother's hand tightly, his excitement replaced with worry. Brenda, her face flushed with what seemed like manufactured indignation, made a pronouncement that shattered the already fragile atmosphere. "I'm sorry," she announced, her voice loud enough for nearby passengers to hear, "but due to safety concerns, this passenger will have to deplane." John and Mary stared at her in disbelief. What are you talking about?" John demanded, his voice trembling with anger. "Her wheelchair poses a safety hazard," Brenda stated flatly, avoiding eye contact. "It's a violation of airline policy." "That's ridiculous," Mary exclaimed. "We followed all the procedures. We booked accessible seating. This is discrimination." Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. Tears streamed down her face as she grasped the enormity of what was happening. The other passengers watched in stunned silence. Some gasped, others whispered amongst themselves. A few shook their heads in disapproval, while others simply looked away, seemingly unwilling to get involved. Tom began to cry, burying his face in his mother's side. Their dream vacation was collapsing before their eyes, replaced by humiliation and despair. This was truly unthinkable. 2 burly airport security officers arrived, summoned by Brenda. They stood awkwardly beside Sarah, their presence amplifying the already unbearable humiliation. John and Mary protested vehemently, but their pleas fell on deaf ears. "Please, there must be some mistake," Mary begged, her voice cracking with emotion. "She's just a child. This trip means the world to her." But Brenda remained unmoved, her expression cold and resolute. "I've made my decision," she said, her voice devoid of empathy. With heavy hearts and tear-filled eyes, Sarah's parents reluctantly began to maneuver her wheelchair down the aisle. Every bump and jostle felt like a fresh wave of shame washing over her. The other passengers watched, their faces etched with a mixture of pity, discomfort, and outright indifference. A few whispered words of encouragement. "This isn't right," one woman murmured, but most remained silent, avoiding eye contact, as if afraid to acknowledge the injustice unfolding before them. Sarah wanted to disappear. This public expulsion was the worst moment of her life. Even Percy, clutched tightly in her lap, couldn't offer enough comfort. Stranded in the bustling terminal, Sarah and her family felt utterly lost and alone. The initial shock had given way to a simmering anger, fueled by frustration and helplessness. They found a quiet corner near a bank of telephones and attempted to contact the airline's customer service line. After what felt like an eternity on hold, they finally reached a representative. John explained their situation, his voice tight with controlled fury. The representative, however, seemed indifferent, reciting scripted apologies and vague promises to look into the matter. "But we have a flight to catch," Mary pleaded. "My daughter has been discriminated against. We need help now." The representative offered no solutions, only platitudes and bureaucratic jargon. They were told to file a formal complaint online and wait for a response. The disconnect was infuriating. They were stranded, humiliated, and seemingly invisible to the very airline that had caused their distress. Sarah watched her parents' mounting frustration, feeling a surge of anger of her own. It wasn't fair. None of it was fair. Their dream vacation was turning into a Kafkaesque nightmare. Back on the plane, a growing sense of unease filled the cabin. The minutes ticked by, then stretched into what felt like an eternity. An announcement crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing a slight delay due to unforeseen circumstances. We appreciate your patience and will provide an update as soon as possible." A collective groan rippled through the passengers. Children whined, restless travelers checked their watches, and businesspeople muttered about missed connections. Brenda, however, remained stoic, her face betraying no emotion. The delay stretched on, with no further explanation. Speculation began to circulate. Was it a mechanical issue? Bad weather? Something more serious? The passengers were kept in the dark, completely unaware of the drama that had unfolded just outside the plane's doors. They had no idea that the reason for their delay was directly connected to the flight attendant serving them. The air inside the plane was thick with unanswered questions and growing impatience. A mysterious delay had begun. Suddenly, the cabin door swung open with unexpected force. Two figures in dark suits strode purposefully onto the plane. Their faces were grim, their eyes scanning the rows of bewildered passengers. The letters FBI were clearly visible on their identification badges. A collective gasp swept through the cabin. The murmurs and restless shuffling ceased abruptly. A heavy silence descended, broken only by the faint hum of the aircraft's engines. Children clung to their parents, their eyes wide with fear. Adults exchanged nervous glances, their minds racing to conjure up possible explanations. What was happening? Had there been a bomb threat? A security breach? The sudden appearance of the FBI agents transformed the atmosphere from one of mere impatience to one of palpable fear and confusion. The unexplained delay had taken a sinister turn. The agent's serious demeanor heightened the sense of mystery and suspense. It was clear that something significant was about to unfold. The FBI agents moved swiftly and efficiently through the cabin, their focus narrowing on a single individual, Brenda, the flight attendant. One agent approached her directly while the other began questioning the other crew members, his voice low and serious. "We need to ask you some questions about an incident that occurred prior to departure," the agent said to Brenda, his tone polite but firm. Brenda's composure seemed to falter for the first time. Her face paled slightly and she nervously adjusted her scarf. She nodded curtly, signaling her willingness to cooperate. Meanwhile, the other agent spoke to several passengers who were seated near Sarah and her family. He asked specific questions about the interaction between Brenda and the family, carefully noting their responses. The passengers, still shaken by the sudden arrival of the FBI, answered hesitantly, their voices barely above a whisper. The investigation had begun, and the truth about Brenda's actions was about to be revealed. The suspense was palpable. As the FBI agent interviewed a fellow flight attendant, snippets of conversation drifted through the cabin, painting a disturbing picture of Brenda's past. The other flight attendant, initially hesitant, began to reveal a pattern of troubling behavior. "She's particular," the flight attendant whispered, glancing nervously at Brenda. "She has very strong opinions about certain types of passengers." The agent pressed further. "Can you be more specific?" There have been incidents, the flight attendant admitted, her voice barely audible. Complaints about the way she treats passengers with disabilities, or those who don't meet her standards. Another passenger, overhearing the conversation, spoke up. I've flown with her before, he said quietly. I saw her be incredibly rude to a woman who was traveling with a service dog. She made the woman feel like she was a burden. These subtle hints, combined with the agent's persistent questioning, began to uncover a disturbing pattern. Brenda had a history of discriminatory behavior, targeting vulnerable passengers with her prejudice. The incident with Sarah wasn't an isolated event, it was part of a larger, more troubling pattern. The agent questioning Brenda paused, his expression hardening. Ms. Miller, he said, using her last name for the first time, we're not just here because of what happened to that young woman. We're here because we've received information suggesting a pattern of civil rights violations. And potentially something more. He revealed that another passenger, witnessing Brenda's behavior toward Sarah, had discreetly sent a text message to a contact at the FBI, detailing not only the immediate incident but also mentioning previous concerning interactions they had observed with Brenda on past flights. This passenger knew that what they saw was not just rudeness but potentially illegal discrimination. The FBI had been monitoring Brenda for some time, piecing together a file of complaints and reports. Sarah's case was the tipping point, the final piece of evidence needed to justify their intervention. The investigation had escalated beyond a simple customer service issue, it was now a matter of federal law. The passengers gasped, realizing the gravity of the situation. Ms. Miller, you're going to have to come with us, the agent stated, his voice leaving no room for argument. He produced a pair of handcuffs. Brenda's eyes widened in disbelief and she stammered, What? I don't understand. The agent ignored her protests and gently guided her toward the front of the plane. As they walked past the rows of stunned passengers, a wave of murmurs swept through the cabin. Some passengers gasped, others whispered in disbelief, and a few applauded softly. The other crew members looked on with a mixture of shock, fear, and perhaps a hint of relief. One flight attendant covered her mouth with her hand while another shook her head in disbelief. It was clear that they were both surprised and disturbed by the turn of events. Brenda was escorted off the plane, her head bowed in shame. The passengers watched in stunned silence as the FBI agents led her away, the click of the handcuffs echoing in the sudden quiet. The unthinkable had happened. A flight attendant had been arrested mid-flight. A hush fell over the cabin as the FBI agents returned, this time leading Sarah, John, Mary, and Tom. As they stepped onto the plane, a spontaneous round of applause erupted. Passengers rose to their feet, clapping and cheering, their faces beaming with support. Sarah's eyes widened in surprise, and a hesitant smile spread across her face. The humiliation she had felt moments earlier began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of vindication and overwhelming relief. John and Mary squeezed her hand tightly, their eyes brimming with tears of joy and gratitude. Even Tom managed a small smile, his fear replaced by a glimmer of hope. As they made their way down the aisle, passengers reached out to offer words of encouragement and support. We're so glad you're back, one woman said, squeezing Sarah's shoulder. You deserve this trip. Reaching their seats, they were greeted with a chorus of welcome. The emotional reunion was a powerful moment, a testament to the passengers' newfound solidarity and their collective rejection of discrimination. Justice, it seemed, had finally been served. Their dream vacation, though delayed, was back on track. Just as Sarah and her family settled back into their seats, a woman in a crisp business suit approached them. She introduced herself as Ms. Davis, a senior representative from the airline's corporate office. Kneeling beside Sarah, Ms. Davis spoke with genuine sincerity. Sarah, John, Mary, and Tom, I am deeply sorry for what you have experienced, she said, her voice filled with remorse. The actions of that flight attendant do not reflect the values of our company. We are committed to treating all passengers with respect and dignity. She promised a full and thorough investigation into the incident, assuring them that appropriate corrective action would be taken to prevent similar situations from happening in the future. We want to make things right, she continued. We will do everything we can to ensure that your vacation is as enjoyable as possible. Ms. Davis offered them a sincere apology and a full refund for their tickets, along with a generous travel voucher for future flights. While the apology couldn't erase the humiliation they had endured, it was a step in the right direction, a sign that the airline was taking responsibility for its employees' actions. The atmosphere on the plane had undergone a complete transformation. The earlier tension and uncertainty had dissipated, replaced by a palpable sense of hope and solidarity. Passengers who had previously been engrossed in their own worlds now turned their attention to Sarah and her family, offering words of encouragement and support. "Have a wonderful vacation," one man called out. "You deserve it." A woman sitting across the aisle leaned over and offered Sarah a small, hand-knitted Disney character. "This is for you, sweetie," she said with a warm smile. "I hope it brings you some extra magic." Even the remaining flight attendants seemed to have softened their demeanor, offering genuine smiles and attentive service. The shared experience had forged a bond among the passengers, uniting them in their condemnation of discrimination and their support for Sarah and her family. The plane, once a site of humiliation and injustice, had become a symbol of hope and resilience. A spirit of kindness filled the air. With a final rumble, the plane began to taxi down the runway. Faster and faster it sped until finally, with a surge of power, it lifted into the air. The ground receded below, replaced by a breathtaking vista of clouds and sky. Sarah gazed out the window, her eyes wide with wonder. The city lights twinkled below like a scattering of diamonds. It was a view she had dreamed of for so long, but now it held a deeper significance. It wasn't just the start of a vacation, it was a symbol of a fresh start, a victory against discrimination, and a testament to the power of human kindness. A renewed sense of confidence filled her. She had faced adversity and humiliation, but she had emerged stronger and more resilient. She knew that she would never forget what had happened on that plane, but she refused to let it define her. She was Sarah, a fighter, a survivor, and a dreamer. And she was finally on her way to Disney World. The plane was taking flight. So was she. While Sarah and her family soared through the sky, the story of their ordeal was rapidly spreading across social media. Passengers on the flight, as well as individuals connected to the incident, had begun sharing their accounts online using hashtags like #JusticeForSarah and #DisabilityRightsAreHumanRights. The news quickly went viral, sparking a massive public outcry. People from all walks of life expressed their outrage and support for Sarah, condemning the airline's initial handling of the situation and calling for accountability for Brenda's discriminatory actions. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram were flooded with messages of solidarity and calls for change. Online petitions demanding justice for Sarah gained thousands of signatures within hours. News outlets picked up the story, amplifying the public's anger and putting pressure on the airline to take further action. The internet had become a powerful force for justice, ensuring that Sarah's voice was heard loud and clear. The world was watching. Brenda Miller's life was irrevocably changed that day. Following her arrest, she was immediately terminated from her position at the airline. Her reputation, once pristine, was now tarnished beyond repair. Images of her being escorted off the plane in handcuffs circulated online, forever associating her with the incident. The FBI investigation continued, and Brenda faced potential legal charges for violating Sarah's civil rights. She hired a lawyer, but the evidence against her was substantial, and the public sentiment was overwhelmingly negative. Finding future employment proved nearly impossible. Her name was now synonymous with discrimination, and no reputable company was willing to risk associating with her. She became a pariah, ostracized by her community and haunted by her past actions. The consequences of her prejudice had come crashing down upon her, leaving her isolated and alone. Her career was over. In the wake of the public outcry, the airline announced a comprehensive overhaul of its policies regarding passengers with disabilities. The changes were designed to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future and to ensure that all passengers were treated with respect and dignity. The new policies included enhanced training for all flight attendants on disability awareness and sensitivity, improved procedures for accommodating passengers with wheelchairs and other mobility devices, and a clear zero-tolerance policy for discrimination of any kind. The airline also pledged to work closely with disability advocacy groups to ensure that its policies were effective and inclusive. They created a dedicated customer service team to handle disability-related complaints and concerns, ensuring that passengers had a direct line of communication with the airline. The changes represented a significant step forward in creating a more accessible and welcoming travel experience for people with disabilities. The airline was trying to do better. Sarah's experience had ignited a fire within her. She realized that her story could be a powerful tool for change, a way to raise awareness about disability rights and promote inclusion. She decided to become an advocate, sharing her story with the world and fighting for a more just and equitable society. She started a blog, chronicling her experiences and offering insights into the challenges faced by people with disabilities. She spoke at schools, community centers, and disability rights conferences, inspiring others to stand up for their rights and challenge prejudice. Sarah's voice resonated with people of all ages and backgrounds. She became a role model for young people with disabilities, showing them that they could overcome adversity and achieve their dreams. She also educated those without disabilities, helping them to understand the importance of inclusion and the need to challenge discriminatory attitudes and behaviors. She was determined to make a difference. Sarah's story had a profound ripple effect, inspiring countless others to speak out against discrimination and fight for equality. People who had previously remained silent now found the courage to share their own experiences of prejudice and injustice. Schools and workplaces implemented new diversity and inclusion programs, aiming to create more welcoming and equitable environments for everyone. Communities organized events to celebrate diversity and promote understanding. Legislators introduced new laws to protect the rights of people with disabilities, ensuring that they had equal access to opportunities and resources. Sarah's act of bravery had sparked a movement, transforming attitudes and behaviors across society. The world was slowly but surely becoming a more inclusive and just place, thanks to the courage of one young woman who refused to be silenced. Her story continues to inspire. The initial trauma of the incident gradually faded, replaced by a sense of empowerment and a deeper understanding of social justice. Sarah and her family had faced adversity head-on and emerged stronger, their bond forged in the crucible of injustice. Sarah's parents, John and Mary, became unwavering advocates for their daughter, supporting her activism and fighting alongside her for disability rights. They learned to navigate the complexities of the legal system and the power of public opinion. Tom, Sarah's younger brother, grew into a compassionate and empathetic young man, always standing up for those who were marginalized or discriminated against. He understood the importance of allyship and the power of speaking out against injustice. The experience had instilled in all of them a profound commitment to creating a more just and equitable world. Their family was stronger than ever. Sarah's story serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of creating a more inclusive and welcoming society for people with disabilities. Inclusion is not just about physical accessibility, it's about fostering a culture of respect, understanding, and empathy. It means challenging our own biases and assumptions and recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every human being. It requires us to create spaces and systems that are designed to meet the needs of all people regardless of their abilities or disabilities. It means celebrating diversity and recognizing that our differences make us stronger. By embracing inclusion, we create a society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive, to reach their full potential, and to contribute their unique talents and perspectives to the world. Let's strive to build a world where everyone feels valued, respected, and included. Let's make inclusion a reality. Years later, Sarah stood confidently on a stage, addressing a crowd of thousands at a global disability rights summit. Her voice, once filled with uncertainty, now resonated with strength and conviction. We must never forget that every human being deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, she declared, her eyes shining with passion. We must continue to fight for a world where everyone has equal opportunities, regardless of their abilities or disabilities. After her speech, a young girl in a wheelchair approached her, her eyes filled with admiration. "You're my hero," she whispered. "Because of you, I know that I can achieve anything I set my mind to." Sarah smiled warmly, taking the girl's hand. "You absolutely can," she said. "Never let anyone tell you otherwise." As Sarah continued her work as an advocate, she knew that the fight for equality was far from over. But she also knew that she was making a difference, one person, one community, one law at a time. The future was bright, filled with hope and possibility. The world was slowly but surely becoming a more just and equitable place, and Sarah was determined to be a part of that change. Sarah's journey, filled with challenges and triumphs, serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of treating everyone with respect and kindness. Every interaction, no matter how brief, has the potential to make a positive impact on someone's life. Before you react to someone, remember Sarah's story and choose kindness. Let us strive to create a world where compassion and understanding prevail, where differences are celebrated, and where everyone feels valued and respected. Remember, a single act of kindness can spark a ripple effect, transforming not only the lives of those around you, but also the world we live in. Choose to be kind. Choose to be inclusive. Choose to make a difference. Treat everyone with respect and kindness. The end.